On today's Ragmasters, an epic battle. In this corner, MCP, the reigning agentic communications champion. And in this corner, the challenger A2A that does something kind of different but kind of the same. We're going to find out who's the actual winner today on Ragmasters. Stay with us and find out. Hi, I'm Neil.
And I'm Daniel.
And this is, of course, an episode of Rag Masters, which obviously the only show about retrieval augmented generation. Also, importantly, my 12-year-old daughter says this is absolutely the worst show on YouTube. So there's that. Today on Rag Masters, we're going to talk about MCP versus A2A. Which one should be the reigning champ? Which one's the better protocol for building agentic applications? And maybe there might be a peaceful way for them to live together. I guess we'll find out. Daniel, why don't you kick us off? Just give us an overview. What is MCP? What is A2A?
Yeah, for sure. I think before we start, I would like to invite the viewer to think about what they think of as MCP and A2A. Like, what do you think they actually do? And the reason I want to say this is because I think the biggest problem with both protocols is there's a lot of people talking about them that actually don't know what they do. I think a lot of people have conceptions about what they do.
And welcome to AI for the last 5 years. So
yeah, literally, it's kind of absurd, right? So reflect on what you think MCP and A2A are. What I think they are, MCP is a protocol made by Anthropic to do one specific thing. It can do many things. People have talked about how it can be used for all sorts of stuff, but it's really designed for one specific thing, which is to allow an application that's running some sort of AI agent on your computer to talk to other applications on your computer, to use tools locally. And that local tool could connect to an API to talk to stuff. There's also, MCP has this thing called transport, so it can be online. There's all sorts of maybe, but MCP really is so a local agent can talk to a local tool. That's fundamentally what it's for. A2A, on the other hand, is so that an AI agent can talk to another AI agent online.
Mm-hmm. So would I be wrong or right, or maybe neither, to think of MCP as like a client-server protocol for agents and A2A as like a peer-to-peer protocol for agents? Does that fit or not quite?
So, no.
Great.
Strictly speaking. So it's a little tricky. So first of all, they both have the concept of a client and a server. And but one's definition of a client and a server is different in both applications. So in MCP, there's a client and a server. In A2A, there is a client and a server. But the client in A2A is different than the client in MCP. The server in A2A is different than the server in MCP. They're fundamentally different. So MCP leverages, it's inspired by something called a language server protocol. So to understand MCP, I think it's kind of useful to understand what an LSP is. So imagine you are creating a coding environment. So you're creating like a VS Code, or you're creating like JetBrains or whatever, or like some text editor for code people to use. And then, and then imagine you want to highlight text. So like if there's a function, you want to highlight it red. But the thing is, there's 30 different languages. You have Python, JavaScript, Java, Rust, TypeScript, a bunch of other ones, more than 30. You have a bajillion of them.
So you're not sure what to highlight red because you don't necessarily, your IDE may not know how these languages work out of the box.
Exactly. So if naively, what you might do is for every single language, build definitions for every single, as a developer of this sort of environment, you might build definitions for every language. Then if you're building a new language and you want that to be sorted by these sort of development environments, code editors, whatever, then you have to make tooling for all the code editors. So there's this massive multivariate problem where every new language needs to support a bajillion editors, and every new editor needs to support a bajillion languages. So this is the world that LSP was originally created. And the idea of LSP is, wouldn't it be cool if there was like, if you could create a server on your computer? So when you open up a Python file, what happens is VS Code spools up a language server, a little basically thing that represents how Python acts. And there's a standard set of tools. It's like, I want to code complete, I want to highlight, I want to do all this stuff. So you have this standard set of lists that any editor would need to do. And then if you're making a new language, you implement that LSP. So now instead of you have to create every language to feed into every editor and every editor to feed every language, now a language just has to implement an LSP, and an editor just needs to support an LSP. And any combination has, works together. The idea
so bring us home then with building agentic applications. So that's the metaphor, and make it concrete.
So what is it? MSP? I'm losing my acronyms here. MCP. Yeah. So MCP is tools. MCP is literally that. So imagine instead of a code editor, you have Anthropic desktop or some sort of agentic desktop. So every time you build an agent, and there's a bajillion tools on your computer, you have Microsoft Word, you have Excel, whatever. You have to, connect to all these things. And anytime you build a new application, you want to connect to AI agents, there might be one from OpenAI, there might be one from Anthropic, there might be one from Google. You have to, connect all these agents. MCP is an LSP, essentially. MCP is like an agreed upon middle of the road. So agents on your computer can talk to tools on your computer. And it does have this idea of an agent, or it has this idea of a server and a client. Does that kind of clarify? I think I'm getting off the rails of your original question.
Kind of are. We're off on some interesting territory, but to make it concrete for folks, like how do you use MCP? Fundamentally, you need a client, which right now is typically either a coding environment, an IDE, like Cursor or VS Code, or it is Claude, the chat experience from Anthropic. Mm-hmm. Typically, that's how it's done today, right?
There's
if you want any one of those, if you want any one of those any one of those applications to be able to talk to some other application, like you said, like Microsoft Word or something else, or in our case, our RAG system. You can have them communicate through MCP. Mm-hmm. That's the core of it. And if you want to build agents have to make decisions, as typically, about someone asks a question or they're part of a workflow, and the agent has to make a choice about how to complete that task. It often has to pick a tool to figure out which tool will do the job best. Do I do a web search? Do I do a RAG search? Do I call Zapier? Do I send something? Do I call up Salesforce? Mm-hmm. All of these would be tools, and the agent uses the LLM to help decide, based on the input, the user's question, what tool to call. And MCP, as I understand it, MCP makes it very easy for that to happen, because your agents now don't have to know every single API protocol for every single piece of software in the world. It just has to know MCP.
Yes.
Exactly. All right. Cool. But that's not A2A. That sounds super useful. But now let's concretely tell me, if I'm building agentic applications, how would I use A2A?
A2A. So imagine you're not trying to interface with a tool on your computer. Okay. Imagine you're trying to interface with, I think the classic example that Google uses in their documentation, what a lot of people pass the puck around, is like, if you want to book a vacation. So you might have, like, I don't know, the Trivago app on your computer or whatever, and that could be a tool.
I feel like booking a vacation to AI or to software developers is like curing cancer in mice.
there's like 3. You have Hello World, you have like booking a vacation. It's
well, it's the same in the sense that it's used over and over and over again. And yes, cancer has been cured 1,000,000 times in mice and really never cured in people. And I feel like this amazing AI that's going to book your travel can do it 1,000 times with every single demo. In the real world, I still don't have one that can actually do it.
Yeah, that's a mad fact. And I think that'll kind of get to maybe some of my points at the end. So
fair enough. Okay, so you're agent to agent, you're trying to book a vacation. Go.
Yeah, and you're trying to build a demo of someone booking a vacation.
Yeah,
and so you could have like a tool on your computer, whatever, but probably there's like a website that you want to connect to. And they don't want to maybe show all of the information that they have. They're not trying to like run something locally on your computer. They have a website. You want to turn this website into an agent you can talk to. So they have their own booking agent, and you have your own client agent that says, hey, my person or I would like to book a vacation. Can you do that? And then the agent goes, yeah, like, where do you want to go? And then your agent goes, I think I want to go to Spain. And then that agent goes, okay, great. Let me do some stuff and get back to you. It does some stuff and it gets back to the other agent. This type of stuff, 2 agents talking to each other, isolated across the environment. There's some like stupid nitty gritty stuff that's really important. A2A has authentication. So A2A is like built to be online, and it's built to be 2 very separate things. MCP kind of assumes it's all on your computer, so it's not a strong authentication layer. I think it's got built in recently, but it's not really baked into it. So
I want to come back to that because I do see a lot of online MCP stuff. So let's just put a pin in that because I don't want to derail it right now, but we'll come back to that. So in your travel application example, I'm just kind of envisioning a universe where, sure, my hotel has a website. That's so old school, man. And maybe even my hotel had a chatbot that could interact with a person. But now the next step is my hotel has an agent. And the agent is capable of looking up the inventory in the hotel. The agent's capable of answering questions about the rooms. It's obviously able to find reservations and figure out when rooms are available. Can do all kinds of things, basically. Like the same kind of things a human might be able to do if they picked up the phone. God forbid no one would ever do that again. In A2A, if I've got a travel agent that works for me as the consumer, it might be able to have a conversation with the agent that works for the hotel. And between the 2 of those agents, because of the protocol A2A, they know how to talk to each other. They're now speaking the same language. Instead of one speaking English, another speaking French. They know how to talk to each other. And they can have a productive conversation and book me travel as 2 AIs talking to each other.
Yeah. And if we want to play part of the promise of A2A, which is super cool. I mean, if you're a travel agency, you don't actually directly control hotels or flight booking or car rentals. So the hotels might have their own agent. The car rental place might have its own agent. So you can have your agent, which is the client, think of it as your browser. You say, I want to book a vacation. And that agent goes, great. I'm going to talk to this travel agency agent. And then that travel agency agent goes, oh, you want to book a vacation in France? Let me talk to this agent that is designed for scheduling cars in France because you said you wanted a car and you said you wanted it to be cheap. There's this particular agent that specializes in inexpensive hotels.
Cheap agent.
Yeah, this is the promise. Again, will this actually be delivered? But this is like the kind of idea. So you can have not just 2 agents talking to each other. You can kind of imagine it as a network of agents that can kind of interact with each other to get certain things done.
You could even, I guess, in this universe, you're imagining kind of each hotel has an agent that's, what you're describing reminds me of like when you go to any kind of any destination with heavy tourism, there's usually a block of restaurants. And those block of restaurants, there's like barkers outside every one of those restaurants and going like, hey, here's the menu. Come on in. Oh, hey, you look like a nice couple. Want a meal?
Yeah.
You can imagine now a universe of agents that work for hotels and restaurants that are like, hey, talk to me. And then there's some buy-side agent that's trying to like decipher all these thousands of deals coming or offers, coming through. and start to pick through them. I think that's kind of the funky world you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to challenge you for a second. So because just like 4 weeks ago, basically everyone said the same thing about MCP. So describe that whole universe again, the travel agent, but how you would do it with MCP.
With MCP, probably what you would do. So it's weird. It's weird because I think what's really important to kind of discuss is neither A2A or MCP are doing anything new. They're just like HTTP, maybe communication via like ports on your computer. They're not new technologies per se. They're new agreements. They're new agreements on what should happen. And these agreements are kind of maturing organically as different companies are having their input. So in an MCP world, imagine A2A never existed. In an MCP world,
you mean like 4 weeks ago? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine a world like that.
Yeah, it's like it's a lifetime ago for AI.
I mean, MCP was born in November, so I guess it's 6 months old, 7 months old.
It feels like it's been years, but so it like it's like going back to like when MCP was first created. Yeah, so like November or whatever. MCP is designed for local tool use, so probably you would need a travel agent application. So that travel agent application that runs on your computer, like imagine it like the Trivago app or the Kayak app or whatever. And that app can talk to the server for Trivago, that's the server for Kayak, right? So that app on your computer can talk to the internet. So if you have...
When you said, just to pause you for a second, so when you said MCP was built for local application, what you really meant was like the MCP client is typically a local application on your desktop, but it can communicate with lots of things, whether they exist on the internet or your computer.
It's a little weird. I'm going to try my best to describe this. The MCP client, because it's based off this idea of an LSP, and there's some technical implications to that in terms of what is a server, what is a client, how does it get called. I'm trying to get too in the weeds.
Sure.
You have the Anthropic desktop app. Yeah. You say, I want to book a vacation. Then the Anthropic desktop app says, I actually have an MCP server, the Trivago server, on the computer. Let me spool that up for you. So the client actually creates the server, which is another application on your computer. And then the Anthropic client and this new Trivago server talk to each other. They send information. But this Trivago server, it's literally, from an MCP perspective, it is an application on your computer, but from Trivago's perspective, it can be the client to talking online. So from an MCP perspective, this is the server, the tool is the server, and the client talks to the server. But the MCP server can be an HTTP client for a website. So if Trivago builds it out that way, then the Trivago MCP server can act as a client in talking with the actual online server that actually has the ability to book, whatever. Does that kind of clarify a little bit?
Not really clear as much. But what you're describing, frankly, the A2A sounded simpler.
I think this is a great segue, because when MCP came out, it was really designed for Claude Desktop to be able to interface with local applications. Then people went, wait, hold on. We have an agreed upon system for AI to talk to stuff. That was a big deal. It was like a new, it's not really new. There's been other instances of that, but it was a big one. It's application side. You can theoretically do everything. We can talk to stuff now. So then people started getting real crazy, and they're like, oh my gosh, we can connect our AI system to our email, to our Dropbox, to our website, to our schools. We can have it, negotiate a car price for us. People's imagination went wild because now we have an agreed upon way to connect AI systems with tools. And in theory, MCP can do that. But one of the constraints is it's really designed for local applications. So even though you can do that, it's really confusing and complicated. A2A is a different agreement. A2A is explicitly on its face an agreement of online agents can talk to each other. So you could build a travel booking agent system with MCP if you wanted to, but it's going to be a little bit weird and confusing and cumbersome because A2A is not really designed for that. You can use it for that if you want, but A2A is probably a better one. So I think moving forward, people are going to start stretching these agreements, which is what a protocol is, and they're going to try to get it to do things, and then they're going to reach a wall where it's like, this is past the point of this agreement, and then they're going to do another one. And then someone's going to make another protocol for that area that's not really covered. So that's kind of why it's difficult to talk about this, because they're organically kind of defining their own constraints as they mature.
Well, one of the things you said there that struck me is that this idea that MCP, because these agents are calling tools, those tools are often not themselves AI systems. The tool might be, in our case, it's a RAG search, so it is an AI system, but it could be Salesforce, or it could be calling a tool that's a web server or a web search, for example. But the thing it's calling, the tool it's calling, isn't necessarily an AI agent or an AI anything. It's just another piece of software, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. In the A2A example, you really need agents on both sides of the call.
Yeah.
It sounds like an A2A system, at least at this point, literally couldn't call a non-AI tool unless you built an agent that sits in front of that tool.
So I think the spirit
Or have I gone too far?
No, the spirit of what you said is 100% right. The reality is an MCP tool can be AI or it doesn't have to be. You can literally build an A2A system that doesn't have any AI. You can make like a stupid thing that talks to each other and it just uses that agreed upon communication protocol. You can theoretically build a website on A2A that doesn't have any AI at all. And that's where like really
this isn't helpful.
No, but what's like what these are is their agreements, right? Like, so A2A is designed to be convenient for AI systems to talk to each other. MCP is designed to be convenient for an AI system to talk to a local tool. And while there's still gaps in the environment, people push them kind of past what they're originally designed for. MCP actually has the ability to make agents talk about prompts, for instance. Like there's like all this weird stuff. And part of the reason for that, there was actually a lot of criticism early on that MCP was a little bit ill-defined because its scope was really abstract and weird. Like it's supposed to be local, but it has online transfers, but they're not really well documented. And the reason for that is because Anthropic like had this big thing that they wanted to do, which was connect their system to local stuff. But there was like all of this unknown space. Now A2A is claiming up some of that space, which I think is good for the community because these amorphous weird things that it should do this, but you can do that, but you can sort of do that. They're starting to converge.
I'm gonna give you like, let's take this home with the final challenge. We're gonna put you on the spot. Okay. We're gonna build our travel agent system. Okay. And I want you to tell me which pieces will be MCP and which pieces will be A2A. And I'm going here in the spirit of it because I like what you said a minute ago, that MCP was built for this idea. It was built for basically to connect tools to Anthropic's LLM or to other LLMs now. And A2A was built for agents to talk to each other. But because engineers are engineers, you can kind of bend these things to your will to do you can make MCP act like A2A, you could make A2A act like MCP. Okay, got it. But let's be in the spirit of what the two systems were intended to do.
Yeah.
Let's do our travel agent example. Are there functions that would be better done with MCP, or features, let's say, and are there other features that would be better done in the system with A2A?
So I'm going to imagine I have all the cards and I own a conglomerate that owns the real estate agent company and also the booking company for airlines, cars and hotels. So I'm in control of all these things. Realistically, these aren't controlled by the same person. So exactly how they agree upon this stuff over time is going to be weird. But let's say I control
aggregators, right? Kayak is that, and they did it through APIs. Actually, they did it the old school way. They made agreements, contractual agreements with different companies. They connected their APIs. Engineers had to work on that. giant pain in the ass. In your scenario, though,
so if I own the airline, I make an MCP tool, an internal MCP tool for having an AI agent talk with my API that books flights, right? So
okay.
now what I've done is I've kind of turned my website for booking flights into an AI agent. If you talk to this AI agent with like text, you can say, hey, I want to book a flight. Then it can use MCP as a tool to talk to the API for booking, and that agent can now book flights for me. MCP is great for that. You have an explicit tool.
I'm just gonna keep it clean. I want to pause for a second. Okay, so we have a traditional API that the website for the booking company would normally use up until 3 minutes ago to communicate with other systems. And that booking API can basically find open slots and book them, reserve them. Okay. Now they put an MCP server in front of that API. And so now any AI agent that knows MCP, if asked to book a hotel, can call the tool, the MCP server tool of this booking company, and not have to know how the API works at that company, and can successfully use all that technology that sits behind the API without knowing the API, because the MCP server client protocol has made it easy to talk.
Yes.
Okay. So in this simple example, a user has to book me a hotel. That goes to that AI agent says, what tools are available to book this hotel? It goes, oh, wow, I've got Booking.com's agent, MCP server. Let me go ask it for open hotel rooms. And then all the magic of how booking happens is on Booking.com's website. It just sends simple information back to this agent.
Yes.
That sounds great. Actually, it sounds like we've solved the problem. Now, what does A2A do in our example?
So really importantly, the hotel booking thing, that all the agent that's doing the booking, the building of the MCP, the talking to the protocol, whatever, or the booking API, that all lives on the booking on the booking company side. So the booking company builds that up. Then if I'm on my computer and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be bothered to maybe log into a chat experience and then talk to this booking agent. That seems like I don't know. I don't want to do that. I have a document maybe of my schedule. I want to give that to an agent, and then I want the agent to just deal with whatever. So I can have an agent on my computer that I give it maybe a document of this is my schedule, and I tell it, can you book me a vacation? I have this amount of money, go. And then what that agent can do is that agent can look around and be like, what resources are there in the world for booking? It's like, oh, actually, there's this other agent that's living over here that has access to booking. I don't have access to the MCP server. I don't have access to the booking website. These are all kind of behind their screen, but they have exposed the agent for me to talk to. So my agent on my computer can say, hey, can you book a flight or book a hotel for me? Then it asks this agent, oh yeah, I can book a hotel. Then this agent goes, what tools exist in my MCP server to book a hotel? And then it goes, oh yeah, I want to trigger that one. Then the MCP server goes, oh, sick. Yeah, I have that functionality. Let me book the hotel. The MCP server talks to the API. The API books the hotel. It sends a response to MCP, sends a response to the agent. The agent says, okay, it looks like that worked. Then the agent says, I should let this agent know that it worked. Then this agent goes, oh, cool, it's been booked. Then this agent tells you.
All the developers out there, I hope you're listening to how simple this all really is going to be. It's going to take a world of complexity and make it into a different world of complexity, basically.
Yeah,
which is fine.
I think it seems like we're converging on a close, and my close really is this. This is not new, and Neil, I think you're right. This is complexity, and I think a lot of people are quick to hop on protocols because they're fun and hip and new. But what's powerful about this isn't it makes your life easier. What's powerful is it makes interoperability easier. If you're building an application and you really know exactly what has to happen, you don't have to use these protocols. You can just use HTTP and then kind of build it a more traditional way. What's really fabulous about MCP and A2A is not that they're easier. In fact, a lot of the times it's more complicated to get stuff set up. You have to really understand these things. But if you build something on A2A, it can talk to other things on A2A. If you build a tool on MCP, it can talk to other things that use MCP. So it's interoperability, not even efficiency, not even performance, and not even ease of use that are really the goal here.
So who's going to make the MCP to A2A product so that the two protocols can live in harmony all the time? And I'm sure 3, 2, 1, it's happening somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was elucidating, but also deep. There's actually a lot going on. I was going to say confusing. I think you did a good job, but there's a lot happening. It does strike me that and then we'll close. I think we're like 3 minutes away from a future where, company.com is going to have a website, sure, that talks to old school humans, and we'll have to also have a bunch of AI protocols that sit on top of that website to talk to all the AI applications out there that may want things from that company. And I guess MCP is the version 1, A2A is a different version. I'm sure there'll be 10 more down the road. But that's what's exciting to me about all of that is we're getting to the point where computers can talk to computers, and sort of semi-autonomously maybe. And that is kind of new. And it seems like both protocols help us get there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, hope you understood none of it. I certainly only got half of it. No, I'm kidding. I got all of it. Thanks a lot for joining us on Rag Masters. Again, like, subscribe. I should say it at the beginning. Maybe that's why no one's liking and subscribing. I don't know. But check us out in the next Rag Masters. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Daniel.